Okay, she is excited to start today. She's so excited to start today because we're going to start something new. But her treat is old classic. I actually forgot to freeze it for her today, so it's a bit fresh. And I hope it lasts for as much of the training as possible to distract her. But she is super excited to do this. Oh, give me a high five. Right, well, you saw it. Or maybe you didn't. She almost gave it to me. You want this? Okay, here. Oh, there we go. Yogurt just splattered on my floor, but she will clean it up. That I know for sure. All right. Yes. So today is super exciting. We are starting a new rig. It took us 20 weeks to finish. Cadence, our character, who has a full rotation, a mouth comp, a mouth sync, a mouth comp, and a mouth sync. That's neither one of those are words or terms in the industry for rigging. A mouth chart, hands, feet, some animation, some posing. I promise maybe I will still work on some of my animation practices. I want to. I should. It's only fair. You should see a specialist try to learn something new. I think that might be awful for me and entertaining for you. So we'll see if we'll keep working that out there. But today we're doing something super exciting. I am collaborating with somebody who wants to learn the program. So I was thinking this would be a really good opportunity to try to get them to use the program, to ask questions, to have that general instantaneous feedback. I think that would be very helpful for anybody on starting their Toon Boom Harmony journey. I was gonna say Germany, journey. Yeah, so I'm super excited. We're gonna go through the steps. It's not gonna be a 20-week program. It's not gonna take 20 weeks. I don't know how many weeks exactly it will take. Again, but I don't think that it'll be that many. If I go back and take a look at my notes from the original Cadence, I would say that it's going to take the same amount of time to rig the head as it will to rig this head. The only difference being with this design, which I know that I've put it out on LinkedIn and, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not showing my screen yet anyway. But LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm doing two things at once right now. All right, so I'm doing two things at once. Okay, so now I've lost track of my thought. Hang on, I will get it back. It will take the amount of time to do the head of Cadence as it is the skull, and then we'll be able to, that's what it is. This skull is going to have some really interesting teeth and jaw dynamics. We're going to have some fun with that. And I'm hoping to put this out there. We're looking for some help because I wouldn't be able to design this as well as an actual designer. This is a bit of a complex one, but I am looking for help for a mouth chart for this character, which needs a name. So when Brett pops in the chat here, which hopefully soon, I wonder if he'll have a name for his character. And I have to remember not to say character because it is a skull. It is not a vegetable. So there's not as many garden puns, but we'll get back to the garden puns, I promise, eventually. Anyway, this is the first, I hope, of a few collaborations. So I'm hoping that this rig only takes maybe about 5 weeks, 4, 5, 6 weeks, somewhere in between there. That would be really cool. And if we can get help with the mouth chart, that would be really, really cool to be able to help bring this character to life. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm still waiting for Brett in the chat. And I wonder Okay, well, we'll see how it goes. All right, the cool part is I know that his preferences are set. So we're going to go over from start to finish. We're starting from scratch. Let me switch over the screen. Gameplay. All right. All right. So, as always, when we're going and starting a new character from Toon Boom Harmony, we want to make sure that we are starting from a real scratch. So you can see, I don't know if we're going to be going over my window position today, but we will cover a little bit of preferences. This drawing right here needs to be removed. And in our color palette, we need to remove all of these colors. You can see them right here. Get rid of them. Delete, 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 delete. And the reason why we do that is because we don't want any of those colors to be transported into any other scene by accident. I undo. One too many. This vectorized line right here is a special color for Toon Boom. If you are using the program at home, you want to make sure that you delete this color, because if you do change it and you bring it into another scene, any scene that has that color, they will conflict. And it's very strange to see those colors conflicting when you have multiple rigs in a scene, or multiple things drawn with that color that are supposed to be different colors. If you are reusing any assets from any other scene where you've accidentally reused that color, you might notice that your colors are off. And it creates a little bit of it's not really a disco effect. It's not like they flash. It's just that the program's very confused and it will not know which color it is, so it'll just look very strange when you start up your program. And then what's even worse is if your colors are not too far off, you might not notice. So which could lead you to further issues down the line, or blissful ignorance. Who knows? But best practice, delete that color. So I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to delete the initial drawing that was given to us in this new scene. So when we click on the yellow, whoop, turned it on, turned it off. When we click on this yellow box right here, if I go under controls, oh, look at this. Is it not on? Did they change it? I don't know why my little boxes are so tiny. But it doesn't seem to be on. So maybe this was an update. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That's warms my heart if that's an update. Yeah, well, let's delete it anyway, just in case. But that's great news. All right, so I did, like I mentioned, I did start a new scene. So far, all I've done is deleted the default tools that the program has given me. I'm going to run through preferences really quickly for anybody that is joining. My preferences are already set up properly because I've been using the program, but I will show you what that looks like. All right, so my preferences are already set to rigging because that's what I do. So if we click on down here and go to basic, this is more where the starting portion would be for the program. But when you're working with cutout animation, you don't want your basic preferences. Your basic preferences kind of set you up to fail. So you want to make sure that you're changing them. It's very, very, very important. So from your basics, you're going to change things like, well, it will automatically change it for you. We don't have to go through this. I'm just going to go through them real quickly. So focus on mouse enter. That is the shortcut which allows your mouse to determine which window is active, which portion of the window is active. And you can always see that by when you hover over a window, you see the red portion. If it's following your mouse, it means that this is activated. But if you find that that red window is not following, I guess with the preferences open, I can't see it. And I think I just saved my preferences. Let me undo. focus on. Let's turn this off. Hit OK. All right, so this is what it looks like. If you are struggling with the program and you are trying to click things, because this is usually the hardest part when this is turned off. You are struggling to click things. I have nothing to click in the scene right now, but if the window is not being activated while your mouse is moving, that is the preference that you want to double check. And the moment we switch over to rigging preferences, it automatically updates that one for you, but we should still know what it is. So the focus on mouse enter right here. You can do shortcuts, zooms on mouse. It just means that your mouse is kind of being trailed a little bit more when you're zooming in and out of the program. Let me go back to basic, see where it's at. And then what the other parts of the software that is not selected when you're in a basic rigging mode, this is another part that will get you in trouble. When you're learning cutout animation, you want your position for pegs to be set to separate. So right here. And what this does is it allows you to make sure that when you're moving things in the software, your X, Y, and Z axes are all separate. You want that. You want them to be separate. When it's not set to default separate position, it means that they're all kind of intertwined and they're kind of like, they move like this. And so that actually will show up in your translations and when you're trying to animate. And so especially with cutout rigging, you think about all those pieces trying to move together and they're all kind of doing this. It creates like a weird effect in your rig. So you want to, in your animations. So unless you want your character to always look like it's dancing. But it will not look as cute as me dancing. It will be like you are struggling to get your rig to do what you want it to do because the rig will want to do something else. So we want it to be set to position or set to separate. And then the next one is set stop motion keyframes. This one, you can keep this on and off depending on what it is that you're doing in the software. Sometimes you'll want to have motion keyframes. So this is the preference for that. When you're rigging, we want stop motion keyframes because we don't want any motion in our keyframes. We are just creating a rig. We're not creating animation at this time. Lastly, levels of undo. You can up this. I'm happy with a level of 250. I have seen this up as high as 500. I think I've seen it up to 1,000, but that's your computer. That's your RAM. If you cannot sustain if your computer is chugging, bring this number down. Let's see. Now, I don't talk too much about autosave and saving in general. I don't use these two features. I find them disruptive to my workflow. However, there are two people in the world, people that have lost a lot of work and people who have not yet lost a lot of work. So I come from I have lost work, so I have a reflex of hitting save. But if you do not have that reflex of hitting save yet and you have not experienced any work loss, this might be something that you want to either start using where you can save your scene automatically for 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes it'll pop up a little window. Actually, you can set it to ask before saving, so you can turn that on and off. And then a window will pop up and it'll save, or a window will pop up and it'll just automatically save. So you either have to hit save when the window pops up. But I don't like that interfering with my workflow. I like to save by accident. I like to oversave by accident. Okay, my hand just does it. It's like muscle memory at this point. So that's there. The other thing is you can automatically save your workspace. So I was kind of mentioning I don't know if I'm going to go through changing my workspace today. But you'll notice that my workspace is not the default setup of Harmony. And so I have it set so that it'll automatically always remember my workspace as we go through, as I change things around. I like it to remember it. So the next time I use it, it's there. It's working the way I want it. And you can always reset it and start over. All right, next tab. I'm a big fan of enabling your wash background. So I use this because when I'm teaching people to use a software, and this will come up in our trainings today, when you're jumping between your drawing tools and your camera tools, you want to know the difference. So I really appreciate this preference because it makes it very easy for me to know exactly what I'm looking at, what layer I'm looking at, and if I can't see something, it means I know I'm on the wrong layer. So I like that. So I leave that, and I set the volume up to 70 so that it's not as bad, or it's not as clear, it's not as opaque. I can see things a little bit clearer. The rest of the preferences, I don't change too much. I don't think that there's anything in here that I need to talk about. I think paste and drag and drop adds keyframes at the beginning and the ends. This you can turn off if you are moving your keyframes in your timeline and you just want them. I think that should be off. I don't think I like that one on, although I wonder if that has anything to do with the rigging. I like that one turned. Actually, let's just do it. Let's change this over and see. Yes, I'm gonna turn that off. Focus on mouse edge. I want that on, obviously. All right. So what that does is when you're moving keyframes around in the timeline, and I think that that was happening actually when I was animating, in my animating weeks, is it was adding keyframes at the front and the back of my little keyframe sequence in the timeline. And so depending on what you want, where I tend to try to keep in mind what it is that I've done. So I don't really like the program interfering with it. I like to do what I like to do. I like to have that control. So I'm not a big fan when the program decides to make those changes for me. So I'm going to turn it off. And I'm just going to try to remember to create keyframes manually. Boom, 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 boom. Which is way more therapeutic with the keyboards. So we've got the node view here. You obviously want to see your node, your navigator. You can change the position. I'm totally happy with it in the bottom right-hand corner. Although sometimes I guess the top right-hand corner would also be good. And that's it. If you can only see in this layer in node view, if you can only see your art layer options as a color art and a line art being offered, your underlay and your overlay, sometimes those are optional. They're not sometimes. Default, the program does not offer them. So if they're missing, we have to turn them on. When you set your thing to rigging, it should take care of it. But if it doesn't, that will actually be found all the way over into your advanced tab. And I'm pretty much jumping all the way over to that tab because we don't need to go into the other tabs. So here in my advanced, we want support overlay and underlay arts. That's the very first thing. That's the last tab that I was mentioning. So right here, we want those supported. And advanced display, advanced palette list, that gives you more options. So I like more options. So I have those, well, they're turned on for rigging. It's very common for rigging palettes to be a little bit more complex. So that gives you more options on where to save them. We don't really actually play too much within those palettes and those options. That's more for studio specific tasks and the way that studios work. Usually things are just kept in the scene level. And so that's the standard. So you don't have to change too much. Restore current selected drawing on undo. I believe this is a new preference where it remembers your selected drawing. So a selected drawing is now included in an undo package, which basically doubles your undo settings. So if you remember on the first tab, I mentioned I have 250 and I'm happy with that. If I was to keep this turned on, I might want to bump that up to like 500 because now maybe even 600 because now it's including all of my selections. So in a way it's good, but in another way it's a very different workflow. And if you're used to hitting undo, it's going to interrupt that pattern. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I keep it off, but some people do like it turned on. It was added for a reason. Those people exist out there, except I don't understand it, but it's okay. And then what else? We don't have to worry about our CMYK. We don't have to worry about our PFDs for this thing. The last one, element node animate using animation tools default value. So this is a very important one. We want that to be off. And when you change your preferences over to rigging, it's going to automatically turn this off for you. But if you go to use the software and it's if it's what's the word? If it's turned on, every time you start a software, the reason why we deleted the little drawing at the beginning is because that same option will keep it turned on. And usually when you start the scene, that drawing, that first drawing, will have that option turned on. And that can get you into a lot of trouble with cutout animation, so you want to turn that off. You want to make sure that you're in control of that option. So it is already turned off. And then these are not preferences that we need to worry about. We do not need to worry about them. And we don't have to worry about deformation or particles. So I'm going to hit OK. All right, and I'm going to save my scene. And that one that we just closed off, that option that we just, I'm going to create a drawing real quick. Add and close. So by keeping that option off, this is automatically off. And then in the very, very first drawing of the scene, that's usually turned on. So that's what I'm hoping has been updated in the software. That might be a new thing that I'm missing, which would be really, really cool. So I'm going to delete that and just start over. Okay, so from here, we need our design. So we need our design. So I'm going to go in and import skeleton in a cardigan, and I hope I'm importing the one with my, whoops. All right, so there we go. I'm going to create a single layer, and I can name it something specific. I want a shorter name, so I'm just going to leave it. I almost want to call him Skelly, like that. And I like to import as a Toon Boom bitmap drawing because it gives me a very crisp drawing, or a very crisp design to trace from. These can be heavy, but at the rigging stage, when it's only one design, it's totally fine. So we can do that. And we're going to say our alignment is actual size. We could say vertical fit too, but we'll go with actual size. And our alpha, we'll set that to straight. All right, so this is our design. Very sinister. We're going to make it smaller. Oh, and that is not that's not the one design I wanted to bring in, but it's all right. Control P. All right, so there's two ways to resize this design because right now it's too big for the camera. So I'm actually going to go into the drawings, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a way to tell if you're inside the drawing or not inside the drawing. So I want to work to make sure that I'm always aware of where I'm at within the software and what level I'm on. So right now I have switched to a drawing tool, but you can't see it within the software. You can't tell. There's nothing physically different about that. And if you remember in my preferences, I did set it up so that I would wash out the background. So I do want that to be turned on right now. So to show that, and this is something that you have to set up every time you open the Harmony, open the program. So this one and this one. And maybe because I don't have another drawing, it's hard to tell. But now that I have these two little options turned on, so this one would be current drawing on top. That means that the current drawing in any one of these layers will be seen. So anything that's on my line art layer, which is the one that's selected, is being seen. And this one is my light table. So this is what kind of helps that, brings that semi-transparent background for when you're within the camera tools versus the drawing tools. So I'm going to grab the whole thing, and you can see that my bounding box is a little bit different now. It's orange. That means I'm grabbing it by the artwork, and I can just hold shift to keep it skewed. And now I am going to be making this the size of the camera. It's a little bit smaller, so that's good. And I'm going to bump up my, where is my, here it is, my safe area, so that I can see the beginning or the middle of my scene. And I'm going to just focus on here. Now, I have to decide which skull I'm going to rig. Is it going to be this one, or is it going to be this one? I think I'm going to take this one. I think this is the one. Anyway, I'm very excited to build this, and we'll bring it a little bit down so that it's totally in the safe zone. Let's get a little cross-eyed action. We'll put the center in his forehead, something like that. All right, so that fits, and now I've just jumped over to my camera tool, but you can't tell. So as soon as we get another drawing in here, it will show up. All right, so from here now, if I hit reset on my peg, it's going to automatically bring my drawing exactly where I want it. So this is the base level. Maybel, you're fine. Can you lay down? Thank you. Can you lay down, please? Go lay down, please. Good girl. Come on, lay down. It's not really good. You're like halfway there. All right, and that's because we moved the whole drawing instead of just the peg. So I wanted to avoid, you know, scaling it up, scaling it down, putting it there, and then that way, if we accidentally reset it, it would move. So I wanted to avoid that. So we changed the actual drawing inside the design, and now we can kind of start to go. We've got our skeleton here, which we can see in our node view, but we can also see that our skeleton peg is down here in the timeline with the drawing. So here and here, and here and here, you can see they are selected at the same time. The dash P is how you know it's a peg. We also have this little blue squiggly with the two dots. So that's going. And then from here, let's create a new drawing. Add and close. All right. So let's see. So it's still not washing out the background. Let me double check to make sure that it's on. Enable wash in background. Yeah, okay, that's there. There we go. Okay. There, that's our wash. I was just in the wrong drawing. So that's what it looks like to wash out our background. When you're on the layer, it will not look like it's washed out, but there you go. When we have a drawing there we go, it will automatically wash out. I always forget that part, that if there's no drawings, no other drawings to compare it to, you know, if a tree falls in the forest where no one's around, does it make a sound? It's one of those. All right. So from here, and if you have been rigging along with me, you'll know that the very first time I did this, I was nervous and I forgot a step, and it was actually kind of crucial, and I had to go back and fix it. So I want to make sure that I don't miss that step this time, and it's funny because I wrote it down here. I've been thinking about it all day. do not forget to create a blank drawing. You want to have a blank drawing so that you can turn your drawings on and off. Very important part. It's something that when you're rigging, you don't really think about it until after the fact. And if you have to go back and do it later on, it just takes a little longer. And before there was these cool scripts, because now there's cool scripts, and I did find one to help us through that step. And before, if you missed this step, we'd have to go and add them manually, and adding a blank drawing and renaming that drawing manually is a pain in the butt. It takes a long time, and when you make that mistake, you really feel it. So we want to avoid that. All right, so our drawing right here, which is going to be our base drawing for everything. I want to create a blank drawing, and then I want to create a drawing that I'm going to be using to draw on. So from here, I'm just going to click on this button, which is the Create Empty Drawing, and then it's Alt-Shift-R, as you can see, as a shortcut. So I'm just going to hit that button once. You can see that a blank drawing has shown up down here in our library, but I needed 2, so I need 1 more. So boop. And so now on my drawing 2, I'm actually going to rename it. And now this looks like you can rename it, but believe me, I don't believe it works. It's going to go back to being number 2. So we need to actually hit Control D will rename it, but you have to bring your mouse back into your camera window. So Control D. And I like to go with capital Z, little z, because it looks like it's sleeping, and then that capital Z will always be on the right side, the farthest right hand side of your drawing substitutions window. So no matter how many drawings you have on the inside, when you want to go turn it off, you just flick it all the way to the end and it's turned off. So I really, really, really like that. This is a very powerful tool within animation in general, because it allows you, if you're handing your rig to an artist, another artist, if they're not happy with, for whatever reason, something's breaking in the rig and they don't know how to fix it, a lot of the times they just turn the drawing off that they are not using, and they'll figure it out in another way. Harmony is so powerful. Everybody kind of uses it a little bit differently. So making sure you have a blank drawing in every drawing node is very, very helpful. So I totally forgot that step in the last rig. Didn't want to forget it here. Maybel, who are you even barking at? Who are you even barking at? Maybel! I'm gonna have to blow the whistle. Sorry. Maybel! Come on. Come on. No. Come on. Lay down. Come on, lay down. I'll blow the whistle. Yeah, you don't like the whistle. Can you lay down? Now, again, cut to the first episode when we did this. And she's being so well behaved. You're a good girl. Okay, you want a treat? There you go. There you go. Yeah, be good. Can you lay down? No barking. Come on. Do your best. Do your best. All right. So now that we have our blank drawings, we want to make sure that we're not actually drawing on our blank drawings. So we've added them. We've renamed them ZZ, ZZ. We're actually going to backtrack to drawing number 1. Drawing number 1 is where it's at. So we're going to stay on frame number 1. I've got my skeleton design. I'm going to bring in a transparency node so that our skeleton is not so right there. So TRAN, transparency. Node like this. There we go. And now when we're in our drawing nodes, in a drawing tool, I don't know if you could see that. It did shift a little bit, but it grays out a little bit more. And I'm going to set this up. So from here, we're going to group this drawing because we don't want to just create a whole bunch of of nodes out here. It just creates a very messy network. So we want to make sure that we're staying as organized as possible. So we're going to group it. And we can name this skeleton, skelly, skelly until proven wrong. Right, and now we've got our multi-ports, which is like our rig sandwich. We want those multi-ports, but I'm gonna deactivate the top one. And apparently I didn't create a group when I create the composite when I created that group. So let's do this. I'm gonna ungroup. And then I'm gonna group it one more time. I'm gonna hit group with composite because I forgot to hit Control Shift G. I just hit probably Control G. There we go. Skelly. I have an aunt that her name is not Shelly, but we call her Shelly. So I'll think of that when I say Skelly. All right, so our bread sandwich, or our rig sandwich. We've got our composite right here. We've got our drawing right here. Let's see, make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope, right on track. All right, so from here, we want to quickly, and like, again, I show rigging on like a more professional level. Oh, sorry. So I'm always like 10 steps ahead. So one of the things that saves time is to actually create a whole bunch of drawings, connect them to your composite, and then just kind of recreate those composites. So instead of creating 100 drawings, we're gonna do that. We're gonna create a little shortcut. So I'm gonna hit Control C. And we all know in Harmony that you can't just hit Control V because you're going to run into problems. Control Z. You're going to hit Control B, Control Shift B. And this window should come up. So this is the Paste Special window. This is my favorite window. I see it all the time. I make sure that I'm looking at it all the time because I know that I'm not setting myself up for failure. So from here, we're just going to hit Always Create Drawing Files. Because we have blank drawings, so it's not actually copying over blank drawings because they're already blank. My palettes, I can say reuse palettes, copy if they do not exist, that's totally fine. But the most important option to select is create new columns. So create new columns is the one where it makes sure that when you're creating these drawings, you are creating new drawings that are independent of each other, and that's what we want within rigging. So we can click on Create New Columns, hit OK. And I'm going to do that again. So copy, whoop, I just hit Control V by accident. Undo, Control B, I've got my window, hit OK. So copy, Control V, Control B, my window, it's good. How many do I have now? I have 8. Control V, Control B. All right, last one. That is 12. All right, so there is a shortcut. I'm holding down Control, and nope, not Control. Alt. Control Alt. Let's see what that one does. I never use this shortcut. One of these is going to work. There we go. Oh, did it just do the top? Almost there. All right, one more time. There we go. All right, so I got a sticker on my Alt. Sticker on the Alt key. But Alt, Shift connected it to the pegs. Alt, Control connected it to the composite. I don't use that shortcut often enough, and by that time I would have had them all connected anyway, so that's my old school. It's my old school way. So now I'm just going to quickly make these all aligned. You can also use, I'm not always the best at this because I try not to get too into keeping my rig clean. I like it clean. but I try not to get too perfectionist about it, especially because I know I'm moving things around anyway. But you can grab your drawings at this point, and this key right here where it's align nodes horizontally, I will go in there and like really clean it up. You don't really want to click those buttons when there's too many things in your network, because it can actually take your whole network and just kind of go and like move things in a way that it's not beneficial. That's not helpful. So I like to do it at this stage if I can remember. And then from here, instead of creating that composite all again and creating new drawings, I'm going to copy, Control V, B. And I'm just going to create a couple of these. We don't need so many because this is just a face. This is just the head of a character. So I don't need too many. So I'll just stick with, I think I'll stick with that. We can do a quick count. We got, this is going to be hard. Eyes, that's 4. Lines under the eyes, that's 6. Eyebrows, that's 7. With the eyebrows, just 1 eyebrow again, that's 7. And then these furrow lines, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. We've got the skull, we've got the cheekbones. We'll separate those so that we're around 10. In the hat, we've got the hats, and then we've got these broken bits. So that's another 3, maybe 4. So let's say we're at 14. I'm just estimating right now. And then we've got the nose and the jaw. So let's say that's like 20. I'm looking at this little tiny nose right here. Let's say that's 1, 2, 3 pieces. So what number am I at? I said 20, but I think I actually jumped too far. So maybe I'm at 17. And then the jaw. And so the bottom of the jaw is going to be really interesting because we'll turn that into one piece, I think, or we'll do a couple teeth that are loose. This is where the fun's going to be. This is what I was envisioning for this rig. We'll have some fun with the teeth. So we've got about, what do we say? We're at 13 or 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And then we'll do the top teeth. So 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Okay, so let's say about 30. Let's just stick with 30. So we've got 12 in each one. So that's 30. 12, 24, 36. Yeah. So that's good. We've got enough. We can connect those. I can use that same trick. Select those 2, and actually I need let's create a new one. Let's do this. Control. I did it. All right. And now this one becomes my main multi-part, and we'll change this up. This is just to kind of help keep our network cleaned before we get too far into this process. We can center these from here. I can say clean this up one more time. Whoop! There you go. You can see exactly why I'm not a huge fan of selecting too many things with that option. There we go. And let's try these 3. There we go. Perfect. So I guess with that button, you'll always want to go literally layer by layer, which is why you can't hit a select all and clean it up. We'll move our top pieces of our bread up high. Yeah, and so from here, we're pretty much ready to go, but we need our palette. We do need our color palette. Control save. Nope. There we go. So let's did forget to lock this, so let's jump into the layer properties, which is the yellow box. I'm just gonna hit this lock. Could have also locked it from the timeline, which would have been this lock right here. And now I can't accidentally select it and move it. And if I deactivate the transparency, it brings my colors back up. So, all right. Now for our skeleton, I'm gonna add some colors. I'm gonna pick up this line color. I'm gonna call it line. Actually, I'm not even gonna use that black. I'm gonna call it line though. And if you were watching me rig cadence, I prefer to rig in a color that's not, oh, I guess that's the color of the eyes, but that's not in the rig and it's pleasing to the eye, because if I gotta look at it for the next week, I like to choose a color that I like, and then at the very end, I'll change the line color back. But it also sometimes means I let a rig go and I forget to do that. So it's something to fix after the fact. But we'll pay attention, we'll make sure. I didn't do that for cadence, so I have a feeling I won't do it here. But we'll trace everything out in a color. So again, for your line color, pick a color that you like, that you wanna trace, and then from here, when we work with the heads, I like to start with the eyes and kind of, I don't know, work down. This is just a head, so we'll have to have the hat, but that would be considered hair, I guess, at this point. So from here, we'll go eyes. So we got the pupils. And the pupils have these like pinky hue, which are actually really nice. And then we've got our eye whites. We can see that there's an eye shadow right here. We can really play with that. That would be fun. Let's say EYE weights. Hopefully Brett pops on and he can talk about his design a little bit. Oh, I forgot to change the, choose a color. All right, so we got our eye whites. Oh, I forgot to say shadow, SHD. I like saying SHD for a shadow, and that way I don't have to type out shadow. Again, color coordinating, usually something that is at the studio level. Those labeling terms, so not always am I correct here. There might be another way to do it. Always follow the pattern of your studio, but for our purposes, for general purposes, totally fine. All right, so we've got the shadow. From here, I'll grab the skull. The actual bone color. It's gonna be this white. And we've got this teeth decay. It'll be really interesting to go in and do these textures. I don't know if we'll be able to replicate them perfectly, but we'll see what we can do. Textures. I just wrote textures instead of teeth. Teeth gunk, teeth gringe, teeth grime. Teeth grime. We'll stick with the Halloween theme. All right. So you know I'm gonna have a mascot now for Halloween, so that's pretty exciting. All right, teeth grime. Maybe even a little Halloween contest. It'll be around my 1-year anniversary when Halloween comes around, so. Maybe we should do it. All right, so we got the teeth grime. Our teeth are the same color as our bones, so we don't have to really worry about that. I think it's the same here. We don't have to worry about, we could worry about shadows. Let's pick up some gray here. I don't know if that's the right color. There we go. So bone SHD. Actually, maybe I should put that closer to a bone color. All right, and the hats. The hat hole. So pretty small color palette, which is pretty cool. All right. I think that's it. At least that's it for now. We can always add more when we keep going. So from here, we're pretty good to start. I don't think I need to do anything else. It's funny now that I have my list from the last one. It's almost like I forget how to do this. I need to check the list. All right, so from here, we're going to start labeling our drawings. And when we're working with rigs, we want to make sure that we are on the far left. That is where you're going to put your facial features. So all your eyes and your mouth, in your nose, we're going to start over there. And then we go from head to toe. But we want to make sure that our face is on the far left because that's usually where a lot of specific detail animation happens. So you want to make sure that it's very out in the open. It's very organized. So from here, looking at the two skulls, but I just want to focus on this one. And then we're going to also keep in mind that all of these pieces, we want to, because of the way that the program works, we want to make sure that we're going left to right, but we're also going from top to bottom in the design. So what I mean by this is like what's the furthest out in front. And then technically, if you take a look at this, the nose will actually be in front of the eyebrow. But we're going to have our eyebrow, then we're going to have our pupils, we're going to have our eye, we're going to have all our eye details, we're going to use static transformations, which we spoke about very heavily within the cadence rigs. We had those, and then we're going to bring the nose in before the jaw. You good? You're making me nervous. All right. So we've got the brow because we want our eyes on the far left. And I'm going to start labeling. We're going to do this eye right here. Because it is in front of this eye. I should mention that we are rigging this character. It's not a full turnaround, so we can kind of have a little bit more fun. There's a lot more leeway here, and we don't have to be as exact as like a lot of circle joints. So I'm gonna kind of rig that in more of that fashion. So it's a little bit more, it's not as professional, but we'll still have a lot of professional elements. But you'll notice that my drawing style compared to cadence is not as like militant. Efficient, exact. You'll see a lot more fun in this one than and free flow than in the cadence rig. So yeah, we'll do this eye, and it wouldn't even be a worse idea if I was to flip the design. We used to flip the design to kind of match our rigging style, like the rigging workflow. You don't have to do that here, but people. Gotta be a faster way for this. All right, let's see. Layer properties. All right. So we'll call this the eye winkle. Cool. And then that'll kind of, the eye winkle is a bit different than the cheeks. What am I thinking here? I think I had the same conversation with myself when doing cadence. there's the cheeks, and then there's the winkle. So we'll call this out here the winkle, and then maybe this one the cheeks. Wait, let's see how they work over here. Maybe they're different. Well, we need the winkle and we need the cheeks. So the winkle will be in front of the cheeks. And these aren't even the cheeks, these are the pieces of the eye that pops up over the eye to show excitement. So this eye has it right here. We're going to be giving it to both eyes. I know I didn't call it the blush. I'm going to actually get rid of this. I'm not using my layer properties correctly. Alright, so I've selected it here. It's automatically showing up in my layer property window. There we go. Alright, so we've got that. Is there anything else that I need to add for the eyes? Let me see. We've got our eyebrow, but that's going to be separate. There is no, in Cadence, Cadence had like one eyebrow. I don't want to say unibrow, but they had a unibrow. But I also separated them, and Cadence had individual eyebrows inside of the rig as well. We're not going to do that in this one. There's no fancy footwork. We're just going to, the skull has one brow. So I'm going to leave it on the outside of the eyes, and I think that's enough. So I'm actually going to group it. So Control Shift G. Make sure everything is in there clean. I'll unconnect these. All right. Oh, I don't want that to be called pupil. I want that to be called eye. All right, so you'll notice that we did not go in and label anything left and right or use one or two. There is no labeling iconology words, and that's because we don't need it. Using the static transformations, it actually just makes it a little bit more confusing. So we've got our eye here. I can always, what I like to do is go in and create a backdrop. Oh, is it going to create that backdrop? Oh, there it is. And I like to label the eyes in the backdrop, and then that way it doesn't interfere with the actual rigging and the way that everything works within the rig. So I will leave the backdrop in there. Seems to be running a little slow, my CPU. All right. And then we'll keep going. When that eye is done, we will create the second eye. All right, so we've done that. Now we're gonna finish the rest of the facial features. So we've got our eye, we want our nose. Oh, I don't mean to open up my layer properties. I've got my layer properties open. Okay, so we've got our nose. So in this case, as I mentioned, I was gonna break down the nose into a couple pieces. So we've got this little nose hole right here, the little thing, ouch, kind of hurt. Then we have our actual nose tip, that's right here. So we're gonna break that into a little piece. And then we've got our nose connector, so like the actual bridge of our nose. So I'm going to, those are gonna be the three parts. We do have a nostril. And I'm wondering if we should keep it separate, or I think that could actually be a part of the nose tip. Maybe separate? It's hard to say. All right, so, but what comes first? So that'll be the nose hole is in front of the nose tip and then the nose bridge. So if I'm gonna group the nose, I don't have to say nose 100 times. Look at this, I'm so ingrained to hit layer properties window. I'm trying to teach an old dog new tricks right now. I'm trying to get into a faster workflow. All right, so we've got the nose hole, nose nose tip. But it is still pretty slow. And nose bridge. All right, so from our nose, then we're gonna do our jaw. I do need to go back and do these wrinkle lines, but maybe we can add them to the skull. So let's do jaw. All right, we're gonna have the top jaw, we got the bottom jaw. This is gonna be super interesting to rig. Top jaw, bone. I don't know if we have to say bone and everything, but top jaw is in front of the bottom jaw unless the bottom jaw is in front of the top jaw, and I'll let you guys figure out which one you want to go with. Top jaw, bottom jaw. BTM for the acronym. All right, I will have to add some teeth. So we're going to, I'm not going to worry about the teeth right now. I will worry about the teeth when we get to the teeth. But there will be, I'm going to put this right here. There will be a lot of teeth. All right. All right, so we got the two. And now we're going to do the skull. These creases and these like jawbony pieces, not jawbone, they're the ocular. Ocular, who knows science, who knows the actual words to these things. I can quickly look it up on my phone. What is this thing? The eye socket. Oh, there's Brett. Hopefully he shows up in a minute. All right, so what are we missing here? Oh, would you look at that? I am not online. How perfect. How perfect is that? Okay, let's see. How do we... That's a first. All right, how do I change this? Online. So I'm recording. All right, I'm live now. All right. Let me just correct that one. All right, so, well, Brett should join. Brett should join us in the chat any minute. Oh, that's wild. Okay, so let's take a minute and recoup. Time's it. We got another hour to go, so it's not the worst. What was I looking up? The name of this. What is this? The bones, your eyes, sit in. Eye socket, orbital fracture. That's the one. The orbit is the bony structure around the eyes. Hey Brett, no, we don't hear your microphone. You are not calling in right now. And I am so sorry. It was my fault. I went live, but I didn't actually go live. I've been recording offline, and I didn't even know you could do that on Twitch. So spooky start, I guess. So I'm really sorry about that. That's my bad, and I did message you before this session. So, but I didn't check it after we started, so because I had no idea that was a mistake. So that sucks. I'm so sorry. All right, but we're here now, and I got kind of far, not too far, within the process. So I think that you're still going to be able to catch up. Here I was thinking that you blew me off. So this is good news. As it is your rig, and super happy to have you here. No, you haven't missed it. But I started because I didn't know that I was not online. So I had started because I thought I was online, and I didn't notice until I checked my phone, which luckily I did, because I was only also looking up like what the bones were called to call this piece. So I've started. There's about an hour of content. But I know that you know the steps, so I'm confident that you're going to be able to keep up with where we are at. But if you don't mind, I am going to keep moving. But offline after this, I'll help you. We'll go over what I missed, and you won't miss anything. But I'm going to stay on task with the Twitch, because going back at this point would be a bit. Would be harder. So I'm so sorry. You haven't missed anything. It's all recorded. It's gonna go online. You just have to go through the first hour. So today's is a bit of a wash, which is my bad, but you're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. I know that for a fact. So you'll have to bear with me though, okay? I'm sorry. Not much I can do about that one. Bit of a bummer. I thought that, I thought you were blowing me off. And here I was rigging your design. Do you want to take to the chat and tell people what, anything that you'd like people to know about the skeleton and the design? I've already kind of explained that it's a sinister skeleton, and that we'd be breaking it up into some really cool pieces. And I'm going to be doing a shout out to see if somebody can help us with the mouth charts. I always want to say mouth comps. The mouth charts, so that we can get a lip sync added to this character. Because I think that would be really cool if this character was zipping around as a floating head, but also having all of the abilities to get the shapes of the mouth like this. All the O's and the O's and the E's and the F. We'll have to add a tongue into this character as well. I don't know. Does the skull have a tongue? Actually, that's a great question. Does the skull have a tongue? Do we add a tongue to this character? But yeah, but all I've done so far is set up. Hey, Bass Birdie, welcome. I was recording the session, but I wasn't live for the first hour. So I was here by myself and wondering where everyone was. Oh yeah, well I didn't even, had nothing to do with daylight savings time in my case, but I wish it did. But anyway, we're gonna keep going, and welcome. What we're doing today is Brett's design. Brett, I really like this design when he released it a couple months ago, and I reached out and asked him if we could do a little collaboration, because I know he wanted to learn rigging. And so I figured this would be a really great way to teach Brett how to rig, and also to have this like have a cool rig. This is a cool design, and a lot of fun. And I think that it's the end of the winter for me, so I feel like this dead skull a little bit, like I'm ready for the sun. So I totally understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I totally understand, and so we're gonna make this rig come to life. So this is what you've missed. Let me do a quick recap. What I did in this session, in this today's session, was I went over the starting of the scene. We deleted our default GIFs from the program. So that's the drawing, that's the palettes, the color palettes. I went over preferences, even though my preferences are pretty much still set to rigging. I went over the preferences, and then I started to create the elements that the rig needs. So I created a drawing, and I created the blank drawing, and I created the empty drawing that goes attached to a blank drawing. And I did that first because I was so anxious about making that same mistake from the first rig. Because if you remember on Cadence, I actually forgot to set up my blank drawing to have a blank drawing within it so that you can turn your drawings off. So we did that. What else did we do? This is where my list comes into handy. We imported the design, obviously, and I brought the design down in scale so that it's there. It's the right size for the camera. And all I did was I took that blank drawing and I duplicated it to a point where I had enough for the character, and now I'm going in and I'm labeling these drawings. So that's all that's been missed. It's the setup of the scene, and again, it's all recorded, so it's going to be online as soon as this is over. So it's so funny that I was not live. Oh boy. But yeah, well, that's what's a new start without making a fresh mistake? That's typical. New level, new devil. That's what they say. All right. So Brett, again, I would love to hear, and the chat would love to hear more about what you want to see out of this character. And this is your design. This is your baby. So I've kind of mentioned we want this character to kind of zip around and have a lot of free floating parts, bring some life to the mouth chart, but also, what's the character's name? I've called them Skelly, just because that's in my head, that's what I keep saying, but if it's got another name, feel free to let us know what it is in the chat, and yeah, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. And like I said, Brett, don't worry. We'll talk about this after the Twitch, at a later date. We'll make sure that you are caught up before next Tuesday, so that we can keep going. You'll be good. You will be good. All right. So where am I at? I am labeling my drawings. I got to the point where I got to the top jawbone and the bottom jawbone here. All right, the top and the bottom jawbone, and then we've got this one right here. I wasn't going to put the teeth in right now. When we go to do the teeth, I think that I will leave that to the end, because the teeth will be a little bit more complex. Oh, thank you for the offer, for the promotion. Thank you very much. We're good. Hope that's okay. Anyway, so we're going to leave the teeth till we get to the point where we are actually ready to rig the jaw, because that's going to be a little bit more, I would rather just focus on the teeth then instead of right here. Okay, yeah, and I will keep going. Brett, tell us more about the character, and I will update everybody on what you're saying. All right, and what else? What's next? So from there, the eye oculars, that's what I was doing. All right, so we'll do the skull, and then these bones right here. So we've got the ocular 1 and the ocular 2. We can say ocular near and ocular far. You almost want to add these to the eyes, but I don't think that's necessary. Ocular near, ocular far. Then we've got the skull. Nice. Yeah, Bassbirdie, you tell us what you're up to as well while you're doing this. Please. What's your assignments? Are they classics? All right, so I still have to add those. I've just added those things, but I haven't added the brow. I gotta also add the hat. All right, so skull. Let's see. We need these wrinkles. So if this is the brow and this is not the brow, so we've got 3 of these wrinkles. But maybe we just add them as one. So forehead. How do you spell crease? C-R-E-A-S-E? I think it's that. I don't think it's E-E. Crease, and that's got to go ahead of the skull. All right, so, oh yeah, definitely a bot. I get enough. I like to respond to the bots too. You got to be polite to your Siris and your Google Homes and your Alexas. They're gonna run us one day, so might as well be polite now. All right, so Brett Ghost, this character that you've drawn for quite some time. I believe it started out as representation of my difficulty in high school or school in general. Fair enough, haven't we all? We all struggled with school. Bassbirdie, what are you up to? You are more film shot crits. Cool, we did classics. What movie consists of a classic? What were you watching? They're the rough stage, so lots of advice to give. Well, we're all learning here. There's always room for improvement. I mean, I'm not in school anymore and I'm still struggling. All right, so forehead crease, that's in front of the skull. We're good. Gotta flip these two. I'm not enjoying my layer properties tab being open now because it's making everything else slow. There we go. I'm gonna cross these lines. And now I need the hat. This would be the hat hole. Hat hole. Hat. And we'll call this a hat tear, and I have to flip those around as well. Brett, do you want to tell us, let's see, what's a good question? Do you want to tell us about your character here, what you see them doing for animation? Like, do you have a scene in mind? Do you have like an idea in mind how you want to see this move? Actually, speaking of characters for venting, it's actually very, it's like when you can turn your any struggle into a creative act, that is like the ultimate form of self-care. So it's actually really healthy. It's very healthy. It's actually that's one of my favorite outlets when I'm stressed, is to make stuff. So I mean, last night I was reupholstering a chair, taking out all my anger on a chair, and wear a lot of cardigans. Yeah, fair enough. I wear a lot of cardigans still. Actually, that's not true. I don't have any cardigans left to wear, but I would. I used to wear a lot of cardigans. Yeah, no, it's super. It's a very cathartic thing to create anything. So it's my favorite form of stress release. All right, so what else we got? The hat tear. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? I don't think so. I think that's it. So I think these are all teeth now. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ish. Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish teeth. So these are basically all teeth. These ones right here. Oh, I'm gonna get rid of this tab. It's driving me nuts. Close. We're done. We don't need an X sheet. Let's close that too. And these ones are out of the way. All right, so the hat is behind all the hat pieces. So let me just flip these two around. And my scene is basically set up, so I can start drawing. I've got 30 minutes, so we can start drawing. I can jump back over here. Yeah, Brett, do you have an idea of how you want this character to move? Like anything in particular? Based on your designs, I'm seeing flexibility in the eyebrow, which I think will be a lot of fun to work with. So we can create a lot of flexibility here. I also want to do some cool things with the teeth, like wiggly teeth. I don't know if anybody else has this like fear of anxiety or like, but like, you know, that feeling of your teeth wiggling. Oh, I think that's like the creepiest feeling. So I would think that'd be really cool to add all that. What else? From the top and the bottom. All those little like, and then like the nose can move. I've already broken the nose up into 3 pieces. The one I'm building the character with the nose in the middle. And then what I'm also thinking is, which would be really cool, is to try to get the character to animate actually into the second pose. So when we are totally done this rig, it's basically like a complex head tilt, but we'll give it a shot. Maybe not a head tilt, but like a head I don't know, pose A to pose B essentially, but since we're going to be using deformers, I think that would be really cool assignment to get the one skull to the next. Oh, I've never actually looked up the mask character of, or like a comic book. I actually didn't know that was I did not know that was a comic book. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Golden Age animations and cartoons and spooky film. I can see that. I think that translates into the shadows, and the way that you do your contour lines, which we'll be able to add that into our rig. That's not a problem. Harmony should be able to, what's the word? Accommodate that. All right. All right, so I'm going to be building in the eyebrow. I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to be here for another 30 minutes. So we've got a little bit of time. This character is moving so much faster than Cadence. And also the other thing about this character is, like, you'll notice that the outline is a lot thicker than the inline. So I'm going to try and keep up with that, that design, and we'll see if we can do some cool things with the process, like within the rigging technology, to see if we can get that to do something interesting. So it'll be kind of be like using the seamless cross networks so that we get that seamless look with all the pieces moving together, and so when they're connected it'll always look like a solid line, but if they were to come apart you'll have all of those like you'll have all those like individual thick lines. It'll look really cool. I think that'll look really cool. Okay, well, you'll be able to experiment with your rig as soon as it's done. So, all right, let's get into drawing. All right, so when we grab our node, we want to make sure that we're drawing on the right layers. So here we've got our overlay, line art, color art, and underlay. It's automatic. It's usually automatically set to draw on your line art layer, which is what we want. And I'm going to start with a rectangle. And this is the thing that you want to pay attention to when you start drawing. You just want to make sure that you are drawing on the correct layers. So it sounds silly, but oh, and I want to make sure I'm using the right color. And see, all of a sudden, where is my layer? Where did I just draw that on? Control X. Bring that over to the brow. Control V. There we go. All right, so that was a great example of what happens when you are not on a selected layer. Your artwork does not show up. So that's why I have my wash background set to 70. So you can kind of see that you're not looking at your artwork. You can see here that the artwork that I'm working with is very clear. So I'm just gonna do something like this. Let's see, tool properties, let's set our line thickness. It's not going to be set, maybe it will be set to 10. Let's go back here. I'm going to bring the opacity down on this just so that I can see through the design. So maybe this is, we'll try to stick with your actual design because you've got a lot of line weights here. So let's try to match them almost perfectly. When we're working with our tool properties, again, I like to use whole numbers. I know that it's really easy to get into, to that. We want to avoid that. All right, so 8 might be a little thin. Let's say 9. No, looks like 8 was too thick, so maybe 7. Ooh, maybe even 6. 6 looks good. And switch over, get it on my mouse. Brief summary of how I started. I did the brief summary right when we opened up, so I'm gonna keep going. But we can, like I said, Brett, we can talk after this offside so that you're caught up because it's all recorded. It's all going to be online in like 20 minutes. So if you can just wait and hold off just a little bit. I'll still make sure that you're all good for today. Like you won't miss anything. But I've already went over the things that I just did. So I'm just going to keep going, unfortunately, right now. But we won't make this mistake again. That's for sure. All right. So just going to use my rectangle tool and I'm going to create the shape. I'm not going to worry right now about matching this line thickness of what's on the outside. I'm actually going to leave it. I'm going to kind of ignore that for now. Looks like I got my touch on. Okay. So I'm gonna avoid, I want to avoid having a sharp corner, and I would consider this to be a sharp corner. I don't really want this. I want the top of this line to be here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finagle right here. So I'm gonna smooth this out and try to get as close to that as possible and as not severe as possible. So bring it down a little, because this bump will always be there. So I want to minimize that as much as I can. And I'm also going to adding. So here and here. And instead of just keeping this to be like I'm trying not to cut the shape down, because this side has a bump. I want to, and again, like you are your greatest model. Like these are the things that you want to think about when you're rigging, even when you're rigging something, a design like this. This is what's going to really set your rigs. If you're thinking like this, this is what sets your rigs apart from others. And this is something that I talk about often with supervisors. And this is just something that you really got to make sure that the pieces that you're designing are continuation of like what the design should be. So even though you can't see something as a rigger, it's your job to really like imagine what it's going to be like when you can't see it. So this is the big clue. If you remember in Cadence, we had to like, I looked at the ponytail, the back of the head. So like we couldn't see it, but I wanted to make sure that it was as close as possible to design like what it would actually be if it was like anatomically correct. So we want to do that here. So with the eyebrow, instead of it just kind of stopping short and being that rectangle on this far side, we're actually going to kind of create a little bubble so that it's symmetrical to this side. So, and we've got two skulls here to kind of reference, so you can kind of see. Or I guess I was looking at the wrong thing, but the eyebrow. We've got an eyebrow right here. Technically, that would be the other side of what it is that we're trying to do. So we're going to build that in. So even though we can't see it, it's there. All right, so I want to make it a little bit bigger. And let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see the whole thing. So maybe something more like this. And we won't be able to see it inside the skull, and I'll show you why in a second. But right now it's hidden. And now this is a bit of an advanced move I'm showing you right now, I'll be honest. Adding this, especially it being so... it's the first drawing that we're doing. So you can't see it. But believe me, well, do this one. Get that rounded out. And I want to keep it a little lower. And I think that'll be good. All right. So now you can see that the shape is kind of taking this like this big thing right here. But what I'm actually going to be doing, and we can fill this with our bone color. Okay, and I'm gonna, oh, I didn't mean to exit. I. So I'm just using the hotkeys right now. I believe it's I that paints. Yeah, I. So I'm just cutting the artwork, and I'm actually just putting the color on the color layer. So I'm just going to do this. And then the other thing that I'm going to be doing is, if you remember with Cadence, I'm using these layers so that we can separate the details from the actual drawings. So I'm going to dive into that right now. This is going to be, and I'm just going to do it for this piece. We can come back and do our overlay at a different time, but it's going to be important because I've created this extra big shape. I do want to show where those details lines go right now. And that's going to be on the overlay layer right here. And so this overlay layer, even though it looks like it's the same as your line art layer, this is your detail layer. So the detail layer is what's going to be seen from the design point of view. So I'm going to make a change to this artwork. And this one right here. Let's see. If I want to adjust the character to make it more rigging friendly, feel free. Well, I'm going to make it rigging friendly. But this is a really cool, because like I said earlier, like I want to try to get this design, and I'm going to try to do my best to turn it into this shape. So even though it's not exactly the same character, we'll do like a quick animation demo at the very end. But the goal is to kind of match this to this. And this character has this like brow on the other side. So no matter which way this brow shifts, you want to have that extra like thick piece of line. And again, that thick piece of line we're going to take care of at a different time. We're pointing it out right now, but we're not going to address it exactly. But so this will add like a lot of depth to your character. Like this is something that I wouldn't want to skip because it'll be really cool. And I'm confident we can pull it off. So I've got this line here, but our overlay is going to be the detail. So the detail matches the actual design. So I'm going to delete the lines that are not actually seen in the design. And so this is what we do with the limbs of our characters, the overlays. I could even, no, I'm going to leave that like that. And I could taper these lines. We haven't really, let's taper them. So right now I've switched over to my line taper tool, which is over here. So my center line editor, oh no, pencil editor, this one right here. And the shortcut for that one is actually 8. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the outside in to the inside. So the outside of the line to the inside. That'll give me tapered lines, and it'll keep my artwork clean. So outside to the inside. And outside to the inside. All right, there we go. And you can see that already the design's starting to come together, but when we jump out of our drawing tools, we're going to see the whole thing. So it's not looking correct. Did I change the color, or is this just like the way that color is going to show up? I did not change the color. There we go. That makes sense. There we go. So now we've got our first drawing element, and that'll be one of the harder ones, but especially since we like created this shape kind of out of thin air. One thing that you did miss, Brett, when we were rigging Cadence, I was kind of rigging Cadence more like really strategically, like, and very like very militant style, because the character is a whole character, and we did the whole rotation, and I went through the whole process of rigging for television. With this character, the design is a little bit more loosey-goosey, so I'm actually going to apply that into the rigging style. So my shapes are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be symmetrical. When we do circle joints, they will not be perfect circles. So like that element will be a little bit different, but a little bit easier. It's a little bit more freestyle, and this is actually probably better for students, to be honest. And this is how I learned how to rig, and then the circle joints came much later. Somebody Somebody showed me that a lot later. So the rigs pre, let's see, let me just throw out a date, like 2015, before 15, maybe 14, 2014. That's when I started to use circle joints. So anything before then, I didn't use circle joints. We weren't so militant. So this is actually how I used to rig. And I would just like imagine the, like, that's what I was saying, like the riggers, it's the riggers, that's their job to like fill in these shapes and make sure that the animation doesn't break. But we didn't really quite understand I didn't quite understand the circle joints. It wasn't shown to me till much later in my career that became my part of my practice. And even when you are animating these characters, you can see the difference. So it's actually really good to know the difference about these two rig styles. Just a little back history there. I know Bass Birdie, you like that part. So yeah, that's where that's coming from. But this one here, we're not going to do perfect circle joints. So we're going to like draw the pieces as they are. They're going to overlap where they need to. And we're not going to have any sharp corners, which is, always my thing. No sharp corners. That's important. All right. So we got our eyebrow, and I'm going to hide the piece and jump into the eye. I'm going to be drawing this one. This is going to be the near eye. All right, so all right, so we got these little cloud pupils. I'm going to use my circle tool. Where am I drawing these pupils? Control X, Control V. I can get rid of this a little bit. And let's see, tool properties. We said it was let's see, what did this say? This is 5. This looks like a 5, maybe 6. All right, so the pupil is going to be a really good example of another drawing where we have to kind of imagine what the shape is going to look like. So I am adding contour points just by holding down Control, and when you hover over the line, it shows up. And I'm also using Alt to break these handles. Shapes like this, you want to hit the design as best you can, but you don't want to add too many contour points because then they can kind of add up. But you do have to have contour points to hit these shapes, but you don't want to have it full of contour points. And then this is what I mean when you want to envision the shape. I mean, this could be a pupil shape. I'm not gonna lie, that actually fits. It wasn't what I was going for, and it kind of looks like the pupil is a skull in itself, which is kind of cool. And over here, we've got like a little pupil highlight dipping into the eye. So Brett, this is your design. What do you think? Should we make two different type of pupils? One that's like fluffy like cotton candy, and one that's shaped more like a skull, because I mean, we can like, play this up. Does that make it look more or less like a skull? Betty Boop or the flip of the frog? I have not. I mean, I have, but I haven't seen them in a long time, so I don't know. You'll have to send me some links on Instagram, and I will post them. I will share them. But do you know, for the shape of your pupil, what you envision behind the bone of these eyes, like the eyebrow? This to me reads like it fits the design, but what we could also do, I don't know, I'll copy and I'll just paste it to the side. We could also create little fluffy clouds. To kind of match. Gives it a little more of a Rick and Morty warped pupil vibe. But Rick and Morty's pupils, actually, they're just like lines. They just intersect. Little stars. Little cat butts. If I'm being honest. So that would also make a good pupil right there. You think of them as little clouds? Yes, both pupils. And what I can actually do is, if we want to keep them both, what I could do is I could duplicate them. So I can have one be a fluffy cloud. So let's say the first one is the fluffy cloud. So I'll delete this. And then if I go to the second drawing, I'll delete the fluffy cloud. And then, whoops. So now these two drawings should flip. Drawing 1, drawing 2. There we go. All right, so, but I'll leave it on drawing 1 for now, and this is not, I'm not actually displaying the drawings, I'm just leaving them there. The drawings will automatically be added to the second eye when we create that eye, so I don't have to worry about that right now, but the pupil's done. And the eye, oh, I did not paint the pupil. So we've got our eye color, and we need our pupil color, pupils, and I'm gonna cut it, and I'm gonna, oh, I put everything on the wrong layer. So let me undo, Control Z, and I'm gonna delete or cut the pupil line, and I'll go back to this one and fix this one real quick. Go to the color layer, Control X, Control V. All right, now I'll paint it. Control X to the color art. So all I'm doing right now is putting the proper pieces on the proper layers. So I've just drawn on the, well, I was drawing on the color layer, so I had to bring the line art on the line art layer, and then bring the color art back to the color art layer. So that's all I've done. I just did 2 drawings. Now I'll go back to the line art layer, and we'll continue on with the eye. And so this is a circle, big circle, and this will probably be the last piece that I draw for the day. Why is it that I've got my drawing selected, but it's never actually bringing me to that drawing? It's drawing it somewhere else. Where is it drawing it? Drawing 34. What? How is that even possible? All right, so, oh shoot, X. Now I'll do this. I'm just holding down Control to jump between these drawings too. So I'm just kind of slicing the drawings while I'm holding Control. And that's what's bringing me around so quickly. All right, so my eye. And let's see, how do we make this big shape? And I'm just kind of breaking the perfectness of this shape of the eye right now, mainly because, again, it's like kind of favoring that look of like a hand-drawn rig more than that perfect style that we had with Cadence. So I'm just kind of adding, delete. I have this tool on. This one right here is contour. I think it's giving me some hassle, so I'm going to turn that off. That looks good. And I'm drawing on my line art layer, and I'm filling and I'm copying that over, Control X, onto the color art layer. And the color, eye whites, there we go. All right, so when we go and bring in our brow, my brow doesn't have a cutter on it attached to it at all yet. So eventually that will be hidden behind everything, well, at least this big part of the eye and the pupil. So you'll have the movement, but we don't have that yet. So yeah, we'll keep going, we'll keep drawing, and then we'll get into some engineering next week. And yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that, like I said, I think it's a fun rig. I think like we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this, especially since we can kind of break some rules. We're not rigging this one for production. We're rigging this one for fun. So yeah, it will be fun. I am really sorry. Let me apologize one more time for not being online for the first half of this episode, but next week we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep filling it in. We'll get into the eye winkles and the little cheek, I don't know, what do we call this? It's not even blush. Can't even say that it's blush. The little pocket of skin that covers over your eyes when you're happy. We're gonna add that into the character, and we're gonna add like the little wrinkly lines around the eyes. And then we'll get into the nose. So what did we do today? We set up our network. We started the drawings. So next week we're gonna keep drawing. We might be able to do all the drawings next week. Maybe there's a couple things. The teeth are going to take a little while because we're going to do some individual work there. So let's see. We got the nose here. We've got the jaw bones, here. And we've got the ocular sockets here and the skull. So I think we can definitely probably get most of it done. We might even be able to get all the teeth done. The teeth are what's gonna take a little bit of time, but I think we're gonna get pretty far doing this. So next week we'll get most of the drawings done. That'll be 2 weeks. We'll do a quick time estimation right now. We'll see how far we get. I feel like eyes would squash and stretch too, as the eyes. Oh yeah, they are. We're gonna really play. We're gonna really play with the squash and stretch of the eyes. Yeah, yeah, we are. So there's that. And what else? Okay, so what did I say? Today's day one. Next week we'll finish the drawings. Week 3 we'll have to clean up some drawings. I have a feeling that will be there. We might have to. We're gonna think about how we do this thicker outline. There's a couple ways that we can do it, either with compositing tricks, or we'll send some overlays to a back layer somewhere else within the rig. Maybe we'll try different methods and see which ones we like best. So we got those. That'll be 3 weeks, and then we're gonna have an engineering week. And then if we can get somebody to help us with a mouth chart, a mouth comp, that'll be an extra week. So I lost track. Is that 5? 5 weeks. So that's about what I predicted. I said it'd probably take about 4 or 5 weeks to get this done. And then also an animation. So if we can get into animation as well, that's another week, and then we can animate the character from one pose to the other, or get as close as possible. They are 2 different skulls, so they are not the same design technically, but I think there's enough similarities here that we can push it. So that'll give us about 6 weeks, Brett, of us working on this. So that's a month and a half of training. So we're gonna close this today. What is today's date? Today's the 14th. Let's see. We've got 3 weeks until the next rigging clinic. So if anybody's rigging along and you want help with anything, the last Thursday of the month I do a rigging clinic. It's drop-in style. It's $10. You can bring your rig. You can bring your questions. It's a shared screen. I've got shared screen capabilities, so you won't send me your rig. I'll just look at it through the computer, but I can answer questions like that very, very easily. And what else? Yeah, last Thursday of the month. And the only thing that you can't bring is something that's NDA. So if something's under NDA, if you've had to sign a contract to work on something, you cannot bring it. You can only bring your rigs, because there are other people that will be in the drop-in, and if they are not allowed to see your rigs, then you should not bring it. And that means NDA is signed for all, in which we're not going in that direction for this drop-in clinic. So the last Thursday of the month, we'll do that, and I'll be available. It's about an hour and a half, and get all your rigging questions solved. What else? I think that's it. So yeah, it'll be really cool. We'll continue on with this. Brett, we'll talk in the chats to make sure that you're good for next week, so that we're all caught up. And Bass Birdie, so nice to see you again today, and I hope that one of your students has told you to enter the this is a good one. Bring her into the dark side. Bring her into this sinister skull if you can. This will be a really good one to learn off of. I think that eyebrow piece and the teeth will be the hardest, but I mean that's as hard as it got, so it'll be pretty good. All right, so I hope you guys have the best week, and I will see you. I'll see you next Tuesday. Peace. Okay, well, the Twitch and the YouTube. All right. You're the best. Okay, where's my mouse? I always do this every week. Okay, I'm actually ending the chat.